Out of all the most famous cryptids, Bigfoot might take first place in sheer iconography. With over 3,000 sightings over the past century, it might also be the most earnestly believed cryptid on the planet. Countless people consistently reporting eyewitness sightings every year since the early 1920s.
This thing was 10 foot tall. He had beautiful hair.
And with notoriety comes media exposure. There are more movies, shows, and specials about Bigfoot than any other comparable creature from cryptozoology. Harry and the Hendersons, The Legend of Boggy Creek, Finding Bigfoot, family films, horror, reality TV, Bigfoot is everywhere. And somewhere along the way, this enigmatic ape man has become a beloved American icon, a sort of unofficial mascot for a lot of people. Americans really like Bigfoot. Maybe a little too much.
It's a female.
Oh, okay. But you don't, it's not a romantic relationship.
No, we have a love relationship that's went on for years, but there's no physicals.
But how did we get here? Plenty of other comparable monsters exist in popular consciousness and in our media, but Bigfoot is another animal entirely. Few cryptids have crossed into the territory of unofficial national treasure. There have been a significant number of sightings in Canada as well, but Bigfoot hasn't replaced the maple leaf. Over the course of 100 years, Americans wholeheartedly adopted this man of the woods. The question is how, when, and why? The concept of the wild man is something endemic to countless cultures worldwide. But in the context of Bigfoot, it's commonly attached to numerous indigenous American populations. But these myths did have a presence in European culture too. The Woodwose, or Wooster, is just one example, and this folkloric character traveled with settlers who came to the New World. As the centuries passed, a sort of cultural diffusion occurred in regards to how people began to view the wild man. It wasn't until the mid-20th century, though, that the image solidified into the modern idea we have today. In 1958, a journalist by the name of Andrew Gonzoli received a letter informing him of a discovery in California, in the Six Rivers Forest near the town of Willow Creek. Footprints. Gonzoli humorously indulged the letter, writing about it in a column of the newspaper The Humboldt Times. But while he found the concept amusing, his readers wanted to know more. So Gonzoli and another journalist from the paper, Betty Allen, published a follow-up, interviewing the loggers who discovered the prints, who had dubbed their owner Bigfoot. Joshua Blue Bowes, author of Bigfoot, Life and Times of a Legend, explained, "People later go back and dig through old newspapers, and find scattered reports of a wild man here, a wild man there, but it doesn't coalesce into a general discussion until the 50s. And that was thanks to this story spreading across the country, utterly captivating the American public." Gonzoli wrote a few more columns on the subject, encouraged by the enthusiastic reception. He stated it was good material for a good imaginative writer who was tired of space assignments. This prompted a surge of interest that lasted into the early 1960s, and the wild man of Six Rivers Forest became a sensation. Not even 2 weeks following the article, the game show Truth or Consequences offered a $1,000 reward to anyone who could provide further evidence about the creature. Gonzoli said later that Bigfoot was a light-hearted sort of thing, at a time when the world is filled with struggles, aches, and pains. It was a chance to talk about something else, curious, maybe funny, and for some, thrilling. 2 years following the Humboldt Times article, Willow Creek initiated a new annual tradition, the festival of Bigfoot Days, which soon became a positive contributor towards the local economy, as did the myth of Bigfoot itself. Willow Creek was arguably the first place in the States to adopt the creature as an icon. With the festival came the Bigfoot Motel, the Bigfoot Golf and Country Club, Bigfoot Lumber and Hardware, and half a century later, the town is known as the Bigfoot capital of the world. Gonzoli wrote, "It's not a gold rush, but it appears to be taking on aspects of such. The reason for the influx is Bigfoot." And this was the first step in the cryptid's transformation in the eyes of the general public. Bose wrote in regards to the image of the creature the people of Willow Creek possessed, that it retained the earthly, backwoods connotations that were being lost as the town grew. And this sentiment could apply to the country as a whole, as America became more and more industrialized. Through Bigfoot, residents gained access to that essential, inviolable part of themselves that seemed lost, but, like the beast, was only invisible. Though Bigfoot had revitalized this small region of the Pacific Northwest, later into the 60s, national interest declined once more, and Bigfoot might have remained an obscure legend that, for a brief time, captured American attention on an unprecedented scale. But then, something else unprecedented happened. On Friday, October 20th, 1967, Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin, in the early afternoon while trekking along the Klamath River in Northern California, recorded this famous footage, photographic proof, they claimed, of a real Sasquatch. Regardless of the veracity of this film, it reignited the public's fascination with Bigfoot, and marked the beginning of the cryptid's history with visual mass media. Come the 70s, Bigfoot suddenly exploded. The Sasquatch was everywhere, from books to board games to movies, and he even got his own action figure. According to Bose, Bigfoot was also popular with working-class entertainment, like magazines and cheap paperbacks, because it was perfect for the demands of rapid publishing, as it could always be topical. He elaborated that this flood of media helped ease the working-class audience into the increasingly consumer-centric culture, and the incessant exposure made Bigfoot a cultural staple of the decade. In 1970 arrived the film simply titled Bigfoot, a low-budget B-movie starring John Carradine. It was followed 2 years later by The Legend of Boggy Creek, a horror docudrama that claimed to be a true story, centering around an unknown creature that's supposedly been sighted by locals for 30 years. The film grossed $20 million on a budget of only $160,000, and made even more waves for Bigfoot and popular culture.
So Boggy Creek came out probably
in
when
72.
Was it 72?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was 10 years old. All of us neighborhood kids saw the ads for the movie, and we were so enamored because we spent so much time in the woods and we camped. We weren't afraid of anything. There was no wildlife or anything that we were concerned about. Then we went to the drive-in theater and parked in the back row, which there were woods right behind, and then we watched Boggy Creek, and none of us wanted to get out of the car because the woods were right there. But as scary as it was still super intriguing to think that something like that could live in the woods.
Did you guys think the movie was real?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It scared me then, and it scares me now.
As far as cinema went, Bigfoot sort of revolutionized the business model of film distribution and catering to specific audiences. At the time, independent producers and distributors focused on marketing to more rural areas, and would even rent school gyms to show their films in towns that didn't have theaters. And they did this in tandem with exhaustive market research. The production company American National Enterprises would survey rural communities, spending about 3 times more to conduct research and market their films than they did on production itself, which used to be unheard of. Once they had a firm grip on what their rural demographic wanted, A&E and companies like them saturated local TV stations with advertisements for their films, as opposed to Hollywood at the time, which still relied more on newspapers and radio. And this business model did wonders for getting more and more eyes on more and more Sasquatches. Besides just film, Bigfoot was popping up all over television too, notably on the series In Search Of, hosted by Leonard Nimoy.
Indians call him Sasquatch. They believe he is as gentle as he is powerful and mysterious.
And this exposure's longevity was rooted to a certain degree in the country's shifting cultural scenery. Bigfoot was a fascination and a comfort for the working class, at a time when American values and priorities were shifting away from what had been traditionally familiar. More women were entering the workforce, the civil rights movement changed the face of the nation, taxes were getting higher, the post-war economic boom was in decline, and now, another war was claiming the lives of young men who overwhelmingly belonged to the working class. As Bose described, many Bigfoot tales sought to ease these anxieties by affirming the culture of character, the importance of work, skill, and an old-fashioned masculinity. The beast was made out to be fighting the same battles as white working-class men, standing against plastic culture, the vapidity of personality, the femininity of consumerism. Bigfoot could enviously live outside the confines of civilization. He was strong, self-sufficient, and completely unburdened by an increasingly industrial, materialistic, and modernized world. He became emblematic of a very American ideal of independence and self-reliance. Though ultimately, Bigfoot did not stand as that symbol against the increasing plasticity of culture. Rather, he became its tool. People loved the concept of Bigfoot, and inevitably figured out how to turn him into something they could sell in every arena possible. The territory where Bigfoot interest existed outside of mass media and consumerism, however, was in Sasquatch enthusiast groups. These started to emerge at the same time Bigfoot became mainstream. Not only did these people form networks with each other to share and talk about encounters and evidence, simply out of interest and without monetary reward, most of them intently scorned the idea of killing the creature. Into the 80s, Bigfoot continued to evolve in pop culture, and it was in the latter half of the decade that one of, if not the most iconic pieces of Bigfoot media arrived and crystallized his modern image. Harry and the Hendersons was released in 1987, and told a sort of E.T.-style story in which a family of 4 adopt a Bigfoot they appropriately name Harry.
Boy, is this guy strong!
This movie domesticated the image of Bigfoot, making him an emotionally intelligent creature who isn't an aggressive ape man, but a lovable, docile, and even cute member of the family. This didn't entirely replace or fundamentally change the old perception. Rather, it softened it, deepening the association between the Sasquatch and ecological awareness and preservation. It made the creature more accessible to a wider audience, turning him into a kindly, if mysterious, friend of nature. Harry and the Hendersons received a television spin-off in the years following, and then there were even more commercials, TV specials, and exposure than ever before. As Bose put it, advertising made Bigfoot into a constant presence, part of the cultural firmament, a real and true thing to the inhabitants of North America, part of their lives, something they thought they knew. And that inevitably crossed over into realms outside of entertainment. In 2015, Bigfoot was adopted as a symbol by the U.S. Forest Service, and is the official mascot of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service's Leave No Trace campaign. There was even a bill proposed in California to make Bigfoot the state's official cryptid. Bose additionally made the statement, the beast was not representative of the really real, but was itself a creation of mass culture and consumerism. Bigfoot was an advertising icon, used to sell everything from ketchup to TVs. In an American society so taken by consumerism, advertising helps to create reality. Maybe Bigfoot didn't exist in nature, but Bigfoot became real, part of the cultural landscape that every American knew and recognized. Al Diatley, Roger Patterson's brother-in-law who helped him monetize his famous footage, even said, "I was money motivated. Whether Bigfoot existed or didn't exist, I couldn't care less." Ironically, a creature so often considered a hoax was a symbol of authenticity. The cryptid runner-up in terms of popularity is Mothman, who similarly to Bigfoot has developed a character. Just like Bigfoot Days in Willow Creek, Mothman has a festival. He has movies and merchandise. He's in Fortnite. Mothman has been commercialized, made accessible to a wider audience. Professor and folklorist Linda Dégh noted, "It is not enough to recognize that mass media play a role in folklore transmission. It is closer to the truth to admit that the media have become a part of folklore." Maybe we need to make more Jersey Devil plushes and Chupacabra baseball caps. But that's the thing. In a way that simply doesn't quite exist on the same scale with other well-known cryptids, people just love Bigfoot. They adore him. The Bigfoot in Patterson's film is affectionately referred to as Patty. So many enthusiasts aren't looking for Bigfoot to capture or hunt it, but to protect it. He's almost like a hairier Santa Claus for adults, connected to a world that doesn't really exist anymore, reflective of what cryptozoologist Peter C. Byrne called the simple, genuine honesty of the country people. Whether or not there actually is a Bigfoot lurking in the woods or over the mountains, he is a very real entity within people's hearts, something unique to Americana, a playful mascot who has genuinely and positively shaped the lives of a pretty significant number of people. And whether or not he ever achieves any official recognition within the US or outside of it, Bigfoot remains, and probably always will be, an enduring American icon.